Welcome and hello. It's Michael Nelson here with part 2 of our video series on the 5 ingredients to small business success. In the last video we talked about differentiated identity so that your business wasn't trying to compete as a commodity where price was the only differentiator. Today we're going to talk about business models, which is how you're going to define your business and explain how you deliver value to your customers. Then we'll get into strategic plans, followed by marketing plans. Then we'll talk about measuring success, all of this with a focus on reaching your small business goals. The flow is laid out because a business model describes how you deliver value to your customers, and then we'll take a moment to talk about strategic plans, the pitfalls, how to do one in a way that's productive for your small business where you're not bogged down in planning. And our strategic plan will talk about how we'll take the business model and make it live, and then the marketing plan along with sales will start to deliver revenue through your strategic plan and your business model to your business. And then measuring success is where we'll talk about how we understand where we are on the path to reaching our goals. And so with that, let's just dive in. So a business model is not a business plan. A business model is how you deliver value to your customers, whereas a business model tends to focus on getting funding, getting money from investors, from banks, etc. The business model is focused on understanding how you deliver value to your customers and what the structure of your business is. And it has a technique, it's a technique that we use within business models where we're going to prove the model before we execute, which saves time and money. Whereas a business plan tends to, come out of a room full of smart people written down and it's out of date before it even starts being executed. The business model can stay live. We go ahead and prove some of the things that we're assuming before we go live. And your structures within your business through the business model become very clear. And it focuses on what's critical, how you're going to do it, not what you're going to do. The tool that I use for business models is a common license business model canvas, and it has 9 different areas. We're going to talk a lot about value propositions and customer segments in the next few minutes, but there's also other areas like how do we relate to our customers, how do we deliver this value to them, what are the revenue and cost structures associated with everything here, what are the key resources that we have that are essential to delivering this value. What are the key actions that we have to take to deliver this value? Who are our key partners, etc.? And you notice it says key in these areas? What we're looking for here are the critical ones. Without these, it couldn't happen. Not every last thing, but what is key, what is critical. After you put your business model together, you fill in the canvas that we just talked about in the different areas, and you can have as many layers of depth in there as well. Now you're going to take your model and you're going to start making it quite useful. You're going to review it for assumptions. Some things you'll know, some particularly around costs, key actions, activities, etc. Other things you're going to be making some assumptions. The next thing you want to do is identify those assumptions and create a hypothesis about each one. And then create a test. How can we prove or disprove that belief that we have? And it usually involves going out and engaging with customers that you have or prospects, taking surveys. It doesn't take a lot of effort nor a lot of time, but it provides you with a great deal of information. Then come back and look at your assumptions that were disproven or were partially correct. Take the time, redo them, put the truth as it is in there until you've proven your model. Once you've proven it, now you can go live with something that you know is going to work. And this is going to save you time, money, opportunity costs, which is simply if you do one thing then you don't have that same time to do something else. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is providing you value and it's moving you towards your goals. Now you can do this with your entire business, and you can do this with each offering that you have. I recommend that you go offering by offering and then roll it all up into the big picture so that you understand your business better and it's more easily communicated to others as well. You can do this with new launches. You can do this with existing things that you're trying to improve. You can do it as a part of an update. It's a fantastic tool. I'm not going to talk about this too long, but I do want to bring up the specter of funding and cash flow. In the last video, we talked about the back of the napkin business model. How much money do you need? What's it going to take to get there roughly and at the high level? If you're a new business or if you're launching a new product, one of the things that you need to be aware of is, when is that going to break even? Are you putting out a lot of money initially and your break-even point is 3 months down the road? If that's the case, you need to make sure that you've got, at a minimum, 3 months of funding available to cover you if you need it. So, critical time to look at this, especially if you're a newer business or if you're launching a big new product. Consider what you have in terms of cash. There's a common saying that cash is king with a small business, but it's not just small businesses. A lot of profitable, bigger businesses have actually gone out of business because of cash flow problems. So pay attention to it, make sure it's taken care of before it becomes an issue. Next, we're going to talk about what problems do you solve. And this is for your entire business and for each solution, each product, each offering that you have. What problem does it solve? And this is one of two critical questions we're going to get out of the business model that's going to help us everywhere else in your business, from marketing to sales to putting together your company flyers and websites. Answering these two questions accurately lets you speak with confidence about your business and what people are going to get from dealing with you. And this is not from your point of view, but remember, this is from the client's point of view. What problems of theirs that they need solved do you solve? Not what do you think you're solving for them, but what does your solution solve? So for instance, Theodore Levitt, a marketing guy from the 60s and 70s, wrote an article and he talked about people buying solutions to their problems instead of features. And the example he used in this article was drills. And I've mentioned this before, but bear with me if you've heard it. He said people aren't buying quarter-inch drill bits or drills. They're buying a quarter-inch hole. So unless you're focused on that quarter-inch hole, excuse me, and maybe some of the important problems around doing it, like space or weight or whatever, but that quarter-inch hole is their problem they need solved, and that needs to be the focus of the marketing on that. So that's the same thing for whatever you're offering. What does it solve for your problem? Again, this requires some research and also proving, and the easiest way is to ask. Go out and talk to people that you know, talk to customers, past customers, ask them questions, get to know what their pressing problems are and how your product can address it. And again, we want to focus on the benefits of the product, not the features. So we want to focus on the quarter-inch hole, not the color of the drill. Not the power, unless you're relating that to a problem. Not the weight, again, unless that relates to a problem. Not the fact that your spiffy mortar will run for 20 years. Those things might all be secondary considerations, but the primary thing that you need to focus on is that quarter-inch hole. And you want to get to the deepest level here. You don't want to address the surface concerns. You want to get to the true problem, the true cause that will drive their purchasing. And then the next question, remember we talked about two of these being critical, is whom do you solve them for? And that's the problems. It's important to know your customers, who they are, what their drivers are, what their motivations are. As much as you can know about them is what you need to know. What problems and needs do they have? What can you say about them? Can you put them into groups? Do your customers, if you're selling drills, tend to be 20 to 30-year-old males that are married with no kids? What can you know about your customers? The more you know, the better off you are. And the easiest way to find this out is to ask questions. Especially of your current customers. Start taking notice of them. Keep track of things. Even if it's in just surveys, or if you have a customer relationship management tool that you can use to keep track of. Find out who buys from you, what categories they fit into that most others that buy from you do. And that way you're going to have most of your marketing messages solved for you, because you'll know the problem you solve and you'll know who you solve it for, right? There's a smiley face, because you solve their problem. Knowing these two things becomes the crux of all your communications, all your marketing. They're critical to know, and they also are right embedded in the business model so that you can go through the process that we talked about to find these out too. And the next thing I want to talk about is processes. And a process is nothing more than a sequence of actions that have a start and a finish. So, they start, they finish. There are outcomes that are provided by them, and they're repeatable. So these are things that you're doing more than once. Let's say you have an electrician company. You have people, they go out to customers' job sites after someone calls. There's a process that they go through. They might park the truck. They might put a cone behind the truck. They might, bring the paperwork up to the front door. Then they might, ask questions of the owner. Then they might put on some protective clothing so that you're not making the house dirty. Then they might, provide a quote, etc., etc. These are things that you want to have defined if you're going to use them over and over again. And they can be in a list, just like a workflow, do this, then step 2, then step 3, just like a set of directions. Or you can present them as a model, a process model where you have an action and then the next action. Then you might have a decision point where you're either going to do this action or this action, and then it'll end somewhere. So they have a start, they have actions, decision points, and ends. And like I had mentioned earlier, you don't want to reinvent the wheel. You want to invent it once and then have the instructions laid out so that people can duplicate that. Why do you even bother with processes, especially as a small business? In a small business, typically people wear lots of different hats. They do lots of different things. It can be somewhat overwhelming, depending on who the people are that are doing the work, if they're having to figure it all out on the fly. And it leads to a lot of inefficiencies, people duplicating things, doing things differently. It can lead to bad customer experiences if people come out and do things differently when they really like something that was done the first time, for instance. So these processes, when you define them, it helps you train new employees, right? Because you've got this documented. Here's what you do. Here's how you do it. Here's what we're grading you on, or what we want you to ask the customer, or whatever. It helps you monitor workload. If you have this process defined, then you can start to also define how long it takes on average to do different things. So that if I ask an employee to go and do a job in a particular neighborhood, and I know what it is, I'll know about how long it's going to take because he's following this particular series of steps, and it'll vary depending on how complex the workload is, but you'll have a better idea of how to balance the workload amongst your employees and how much work that you can get done. It enables you to craft more accurate roles and responsibilities to define for your employees. Your job is this, and within it, you have these series of kind of general responsibilities, but you're also responsible for executing things. And, when you do, you use these 4 processes so they know what's expected of them. They know what they're responsible for. These things become useful if they're not doing them. You can bring them in, you can talk to them, you can provide more training, clarification, or whatever, but they can't say, well, I didn't know what to do, because you've let them know, and you avoid that whole cycle. It helps you become better at hiring when you know what people need to do and what's expected of them. It lets you define that more clearly in your job description so that people come to you more prepared to understand what the expectations on them will be. It helps you in interviews because you know that, okay, well, this person's going to be responsible for a bunch of these different processes. You can ask them questions that relate to it, gauge their experience, their ability to do it, etc. And again, with the measurement, it lets you measure your process performance and improve it over time. You can start to track metrics. You might have 5 employees out sort of doing the same work, and you find that several of them are faster and their work is more accurate. So then, what you don't want to do right away is punish the others. What you want to do is find out what makes these people, really good at this. Find that information out and build it into the process and train people so that they can be that efficient as well. So the processes are critical to your business. You don't want to do this with everything. You want to do it with repeatable things that are quite important to your business. And as you get bigger, you'll add things like human resources, bookkeeping, and things to your processes, reporting, um, you know, reporting on your people, periodic checks, etc., where you want to have something defined and in the books so that when you hire people, they know what to do. And the last thing we're going to talk about is systems. And in this sense, I'm not talking about a computer system. I'm simply referring to a group of processes. So, let's talk HR. HR might hire. They might have a process for that. They might interview as a part of that. That could be a process. They may run benefits. That will be a separate process. They might run training. That would be a separate process. And all of these would be a part of what is essentially your HR system. So you want to group these projects logically. They may flow from one to the next. They might be related. And they'll usually be in a particular area, although they can flow across the company too, and that's fine. You just have to know it and define it. So you need to understand what systems do you need in your business. And usually the systems and even processes will highlight themselves as being necessary when you realize that it feels like you're reinventing the wheel. When you're spending too much time doing something, you know that this has been done before, but you can't find it anywhere and figure out who did it, or the person that used to do it has left and now you need to start over. Those things are screaming indicators that it's time to get some of these things down and organize your business so that you have more time to focus on delivering value to your customers. So to wrap it up, we've talked about business models and why a business model is important, what it can do for you, how critical it is to understand your business so that you're focused on the right things and so that you're truly working on things that matter to your customer and to reaching towards your goals. And at the same time, knowing these things is really going to help your marketing messages as we get down the road. So that when people say, what do? You can say, I help such and such solve, such and such, or do this. Instead of saying, we're a graphics design firm. One inspires questions and people see the value you provide, and the other one is kind of a O. And you don't want to be in that O category. So I'd also like to let you know that I have a free 45-minute solution session that I'm offering. And you and I get together over the phone, so you can do it from wherever you are, and if you're overseas, we can use Skype so that it's free. And we'll look at where you are today, where you want to go, what obstacles you're facing, and then we'll come up with at least 3 recommendations to start moving you towards your goals. And we can talk about anything that's in this video series or anything in your business that's of concern to you right now. Really, the choice of what we discuss and the problem we solve is going to be up to you. A couple ways to register for this. There's a link there that's a shorter link that will take you directly to a calendar where you can see what spaces are available, what times are available. Click on it, register, put your email in, and it sends both of us a notification and schedules it for us. Or you can go to my website at thecogentcoach.com, which is the second link, and on the right hand side you'll see a kind of a yellow box that says schedule session. You can click on that as well. You can also, on the bottom of the screen, you'll see my phone number, 877-242-4812. You can give me a shout. We can schedule it, or you can hear from me, talk to me about what it is and whether or not you're interested in it, find out a bit more. So I invite you to take advantage of that offer. Also on my homepage, just below the schedule session, you can find a sign-up box if you haven't already, where you'll be notified each time a new video in this series is released as well, so you don't have to worry about missing any of them because they'll be up for a limited amount of time. So that said, I wish you the best of success in your business. Cheers.